This is a very, very weird experience. Reviewing an episode. It's presumably just gone. No, it's 8:50 in the morning. First of all, let's quickly address it. I slightly prefer that time. I feel like, I ended up like finishing like a review at like 2 a.m. and it was weird, and I just kind of like to like go to bed. The Robot Revolution has just come out, so I am gonna review it. But first of all, you need to subscribe, because I want people to subscribe. Also, I've realised the first t-shirt I put on is a Greg's t-shirt. But that's kind of chill. I do not mind at all. Hello, everyone. So what did I think of the Robot Revolution? That's why you're here. First of all, I think this is an episode that might age better with time, because it's tough as a season opener, because I feel like that episode had all of the elements that we knew were going to happen. Like, there was a lovely plot twist, and we will talk about the plot twist, because I genuinely think that's where the episode had some of its highlights for me. But the reason why this review might not be the most positive is because, apart from that plot twist, there really weren't too many, like, surprises to, like, delve into. Like, we kind of knew, like, the plot and the plot synopsis going in. We knew we had to set up the whole get Belinda home story arc. We know we have to go through the two hearts and through the TARDIS, and there's no real way anymore to do the it's bigger on the inside kind of bit interestingly to a certain extent. So when you're introducing a new companion, there's almost certain beats you've got to go through. And to be fair, I would probably argue that going through the classics is one of this episode's weaknesses, because I don't think it does anything new with that format. We go through the Two Hearts thing in a slightly, similar way, and we do all of that stuff, and we go around the TARDIS, and it's just, that wasn't the most original. But let's get on to some positives. Because overall, if I had to give this a stars out of 5, I'd say this is a perfectly solid 3 stars out of 5 episode. Where this episode slightly lacks is, I think it kind of does drag in the middle a little bit. I think we have some fun setups. Obviously, we've seen it before, but the Mrs. Flood scene was really, really cool. I think it opens quite strong, and it's quite fast-paced, and it's got a bit of humour, and it sets up Belinda quite nicely. And then the end we'll get to, but I think that last 10-15 minutes is really, really strong. We spend a lot of time underground in that random base thing, and it starts to drag a little bit. There's kind of like, it feels like an episode. I mean, the resolution kind of happens like 35 minutes in, and we kind of have like 10 minutes to like, do a bit of a prologue it's epilogue. It's epilogue at the end. Yeah, it's prologue at the start, epilogue at the end. We do like 10 minutes of like prologue and setting up the future season. And even then, there's 35 minutes of actual story. And it kind of feels like it's kind of like a 25-minute story that's kind of been like extended out. But I don't mind that, we're allowed a little bit of filler. I'm feeling generous. The Nerdy Brit gives you generosity. But the middle dragged a little bit. But the plot twist, the end, I think all of the slightly, not quite, it's in a Russell T style, but the slightly Stephen Moffat-y, timey-wimey stuff, some very funny timey-wimey jokes, I'll give it that. All of that setup, the plot twist, which I won't go into like full spoiler details in case you haven't watched this, but also why are you watching a Nerdy Brit review instead of just watching Docky Woo? Watch the full video, give me watch time, and then go and watch the episode. But obviously, I'm going to talk in semi spoilers. But the plot twist and like setting that up at the start, and I didn't see that coming. And I think one of the things that will get memed, unfortunately, due to this episode is the whole. Russell T is slightly relying on the whole, words being slightly misread, doing the whole. Obviously we had to deal with the anagram stuff at the end of last season, and that was a bit hit or miss. Al worked well. I I know very well that confusing your L's and your I's when they're capitalised are very... It confuses me a lot, so I understand why Mr. Shooty Gatwa would also get confused with that. But all that worked for me. I also think Russel plays with fire, and I appreciate that. And I personally really, liked the kind of like controlling asshole boyfriend becoming, I personally feel like sci-fi is more interesting when it can be rooted into real things, because therefore it feels more real. That's a really bad explanation. Just go with me. You know what I mean. But I do feel like the whole controlling boyfriend is the plot. People are going to latch onto that, but I thought it made the story quite nice and interesting, and it showed us different bits about Belinda. And Belinda, what a transition, which I then ruined about mentioning it being a transition, but swings and roundabouts. Belinda, breath of fresh air. We talked about how the classic companion setups probably weren't the most original. That was class. That was just, I get we always knew we were getting to the get me home Belinda kind of stuff, but, her attitude, and I was worried because we were told in the promo and like all the interviews they were doing, Belinda's different. Belinda challenges the Doctor. So you're kind of like, I thought they might have set themselves up for failure a little bit by continuing to hammer that home. But having watched the episode, not only do I agree, but it is genuinely an interesting dynamic. I'm not saying anything new here, but you've got a show that's 60 years old. You've got to do new things with the format. And that feels like a companion that just genuinely challenges the Doctor in a really cool, funky, different, interesting kind of way. So yeah, Belinda, I'm with you. That's class. I also think those robots, man. Those robots were cute as... I try not to swear on this channel. Good save, James. Yes, if there's any form of action figure or something I can buy for those, I will be doing so. What was the other... There was other thing that annoyed me. What was her name? Whoever was blank 55, the one that died quite quickly early on, that felt a bit formulaic, just because it felt like, right, we're setting her up to have adventures with the Doctor, and it all kind of happens, and it's all a bit like, we get why that's emotional, but you haven't done enough setup to earn that emotional payoff. But I didn't mind it because they tried to retroactively do some stuff with it, and it kind of worked. That's my review. I'm going to be uploading lots of content now. We're back. Subscribe for the reviews. I might do a longer form review podcast. All of that good stuff. Subscribe, and I'll see you later. Dramatic turn for the camera.